There's currently a serious meningitis outbreak in the UK that has already led to deaths in young people, sadly, and most teenagers are not protected against the strain responsible. If you have a child or teenager, this is something you really need to understand. In the video, I am going to explain what's actually happening, who is at risk, and most importantly, how to check if your child is protected. What's happening? A recent outbreak of meningitis in Kent, centred around the university, especially students in Canterbury, has raised lots of worry and concern among parents. There have now been multiple cases with, tragically, at least 2 young people have lost their lives and several people have been hospitalised. Health officials have described the spread as unusually rapid, even calling it unprecedented, in how quickly cases have appeared. This appears to have been linked to a super spreader event, likely involving close contact in social settings like university halls or nightclub venues. Now, importantly, the overall risk to the wider public and young people and children elsewhere is still considered low. But for certain groups, particularly teenagers and students, this is a relevant risk for them to get educated about. What is meningitis B? Meningitis is an infection of the lining around the brain and spinal cord. It can progress incredibly quickly and can be life-threatening. The strain involved in this outbreak is meningitis B or MenB. It is a particularly dangerous strain and can even be fatal in up to 10% of cases. It's important to know the strain because not all meningitis vaccines protects against every strain. The key problem: many teens are not protected. This is the part that many parents are just realising recently. In the UK, babies have been routinely vaccinated against meningitis B since 2015. But of course, most teenagers and current university students were born well before that, so they were never routinely offered this vaccine. At the same time, teenagers are given a meningitis vaccine at school, usually around 13 or 14 years of age in year 9. But that vaccine is MenACWY. It protects against 4 strains of meningitis, but not MenB. So I think lots of young people and parents maybe have assumed they're protected, when actually they're not protected against the strain causing this outbreak. Why teenagers are high risk? Meningitis has 2 main peaks: babies under 1, and then teenagers aged around 15 to 19 years of age. And there are a few reasons for that. Firstly, it's much more common for teenagers to carry the MenB bacteria in the back of their throat without knowing it. About 1 in 4 young people will have this. Secondly, environments like schools, university halls, dorms, social settings like nightclubs and parties mean lots of close contact, sharing drinks and maybe some other fluids, and increased transmission risk. That's exactly why outbreaks like this tend to occur in this particular age group. How long does the vaccine last? Even for those who have had the MenB vaccine, protection unfortunately is not lifelong. We know antibody levels drop over time, especially after the first year. But some protection does seem to persist for at least around 5 years, possibly even up to 7.5 years. But the most reliable protection comes from boosting those antibody levels with vaccination. Private vaccination and shortages. Currently, there is no general NHS catch-up programme for these teenagers and young people. So many families have chosen to access the MenB vaccine privately in the past. Typically, it's usually a 2-dose course, and costs vary between providers, but maybe around £300. Because of this outbreak, of course, demand for the vaccine has surged. Pharmacies and clinics are reporting shortages. We're also seeing wait lists being created while new supplies are waited, and that's what we're doing in clinic. Symptoms. Now, this is really important. Meningitis can develop very quickly, and early symptoms can look just like a viral illness. Key things to look for. So a high fever, especially with cold hands and feet, severe headaches, neck stiffness, vomiting or muscle pains, especially saying their arms and legs hurt, confusion or drowsiness, and a rash that doesn't fade when you press on it or fade under pressure. Sometimes you'll hear that called the glass test. But there's a really important message. Please do not wait for a rash to appear. Some people may not get that symptom or may not get it until they are already really, really sick. Symptoms can appear in any order or not at all. If someone is getting worse, if they seem to feel worse than you'd expect for a normal flu or even a hangover, trust your instincts and seek urgent medical help. What should parents do now? So what should you do after watching this? So firstly, check your child's vaccination history. You can look in their red book, you can contact your GP, and specifically look for the MenB vaccine. You might see it called by its trade name. In the book, it may be written as Bexsero or Trumemba. Don't assume they're covered just because they've had their school meningitis vaccines. If your child is a teenager or going away to university or living in shared accommodation, it is worth thinking for the long term whether they should have a meningitis B vaccine, especially given this current situation. The important thing here is please do not panic, but be informed. Outbreaks like this, thankfully, are rare, but meningitis is a serious illness. Awareness can make a real difference for getting treatment early, and we're fortunate that there are options for vaccination as well. If you're unsure about any of your child's vaccines, this is a great point to just go through and make sure they have had all of those vaccines for other meningitis, measles, HPV, all really valuable vaccinations. If you want more information, I have written a blog which is a little bit more detailed, which I'll link in the description below. Also contains a link if you do want to register on our waiting list for MenB vaccine. I hope that's helpful information. Do reach out with comments or questions and we will try to get back to you on those.